Change, and it will never ever change, because there is no earthly force more powerful than the brave heart.
Be leaders ourselves.
Black women are being used by the Democrat Party.
All of these socioeconomic indicators are in the negative, particularly for Black people.
They want mob rule. When Trump was in office, please somebody tell me what act of dictatorship did he perform?
She had Donald Trump's hair on top of her head. And she's sitting here talking about brown girl this, brown girl that.
Because she's a Black woman.
They would ask her how to spell her first name and clap like sea monkeys.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa. Good evening, everybody out there in YouTube land. How are you guys tonight? It is Monday, June 16th, and no, you're not seeing things. You don't need to clean your glasses. We are here tonight, Poppin' Politics. I'm Shelly E., not KJ. KJ is taking a little break, but we're here with you, and we are going to get this show rolling. But first, I see already in the chat, Yana is back with us tonight. And Yana, you have a few fans who are already popping off and saying hi to you. So welcome back, Yana.
Thank you. I'm so excited. I'm excited to see everybody, and especially the people who are watching us. I'm so happy that you're here watching us tonight.
Great. We are going to have a fun show. Of course, we always have, and we are thankful to have Tyrone from Soldiers of Finance and Nicole. We can't do it without Coley. So again, hi, everybody. Again, we want you all, when you're coming in, hit that like, share, and subscribe buttons, and make sure you go to our merchandise link and buy all the merchandise you want. We will mention this again, but you can beat me to it by going ahead and purchasing what you want. We have a packed show for you tonight, so you guys got to hang in there. We need your support. We need your cheering us on, and we are going to break it down. All right. First news of order is we're going to talk about the Army's 250th parade, the honor that was bestowed over the weekend on Saturday. Not to mention it was Flag Day, and not to mention, I know the press doesn't want us to say this, but it was also President Trump's birthday. Happy birthday, President Trump. Happy birthday to our U.S. Army, and happy Flag Day. I know you all had a great time celebrating, so we're going to get right into it. Of course, that parade, just the fact of the parade, it caused the leftists to just go into lunatic mode. Okay, so we're going to talk about this. Let's talk about this. First of all, let's see clip one right away. We're going to go right into clip one and talk about these leftists having a lunatic episode.
Change, and it will never ever change, because there is no earthly force more powerful than the brave heart.
So as you can see, that crowd was full of younger people. Before we comment, I'm going to show you this contrasting clip. Let's see clip number 3.
I'm just so scared. I'm 74 years old. I worry about everything, and I just am so scared and upset, and I don't understand why people did and voted for this person.
I hate to talk about grandma, but grandma sounds like a loony. Tyrone, what happened? Why did this parade send people left into lunatic mode?
Oh, it's not just a parade. You could do anything to send a leftist into lunatic mode. I mean, they don't really go into that mode. They are in that mode, perpetually. So no matter what, I mean, think about it. Trump came out a few weeks back, and remember, he said that he wanted to lower prescription drug costs, and that was a problem. So we're not dealing with serious people here. Now, that lady said she was well into her 70s. She should be enjoying life. Instead, she's probably abbreviating what time she has left, because she's pumping all of this negative energy into her organs. Okay, so it's Trump derangement syndrome. It is real. It is a real mental illness that can affect you physically. I mean, look at Rosie O'Donnell. Now, Rosie has never been the most attractive woman.
Right.
She would have never qualified to come on the pop in politics. But in recent years, Rosie has, like, my God.
She's aged.
Yeah, she's deteriorated. It's the negative energy.
Yeah. Yana, being from the former Soviet Union, one of those countries, Belarus, Russia, why does a military parade, evoke these fears of a dictatorship? Or people have used the images of North Korea, with their army marching through the streets. Tell me why. What is it about this that causes so much fear?
Honestly, it's hard for me to understand. It's really hard for me to understand why people reacted in such way. I grew up with military parades every single year. We, in Russia and Belarus, we have them every single year. And it's a joyous event. It's an event of pride. And it's an event for the soldiers to feel that they're honored, for the generals to be honored. And it's a prideful event for everyone that look what we have. This is the army that we have. We're strong. So I really, honestly, I don't understand why some Americans had such a reaction. This is the anniversary of the US Army. And people in the Army, they're not necessarily all voting one way. This is honoring our soldiers who literally they have pledged their lives for everyone in this country. And it's honestly, I don't understand. It's ridiculous that people had such a
Nicole,
reaction.
before I get you in here, I'm going to shout out our super chatters. We want to say thank you to Tijuana Border Jumper, who is also a Freedom member. You get the flag wave. Thank you, Tijuana. He says, hey, everyone. Happy to be here and a proud supporter. Hey, Nicole, Yana, Shelly E, and Tyrone. Thank you, Tijuana. We can always count on you to be there.
Absolutely.
And I just know you didn't jump the border to here, but we want you here and we thank you that you're here legally. We have Southern Charm for the $5 super chat. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much for your super chat and for supporting our show. And we also have our ever faithful Kung Fu CJ. He says, what? Shelly E hosting? Yes. And I hope I'm doing KJ some justice. She'll be back probably the end of the week. She's taking a couple of days off. KJ, she's always dramatic, right? But anyway, she's taking some much needed time off. And yes, you're not seeing double again. It's me, Shelly E, here with the gang. We have Nicole, Tyrone, and Yana is back with us tonight. Nicole, before you respond, I'm going to play clip number 2. And I want you to talk about this clip a little bit when we see this clip, Nicole.
And whenever I come out here, I take great joy in running my mall route and down around the monuments or whatever, and it was horrific down there today. I'm just going to tell you, it just looks wrong, feels wrong. And so I think I'm going to go be with a few thousand folks who kind of have the tradition that there is a separation there, that we don't need this. And this is not Pyongyang on a Saturday. So I'm just going to confess to it. Might get me in trouble, whatever. I have never so hoped for rain in my life. So, there you go. So,
Nicole, why would an elected official of the United States of America in one of our great states, why would these people, Tim Walz's of the world, why would he say something like this? Why does he seem to want the demise, if you will, of America?
Well, that's what he wants. That's what that party wants. He wants a global field. He doesn't want independence. He does not want freedom. He doesn't want liberty. Listen, they don't call him Tampon Tim for nothing. This man is talking about this, what Pyongyang would look like on a Saturday. How the hell would he know? He lied about that. He wasn't even there, right? He's lied about so much. The one thing that I can say that really worked out well for him, although it wasn't the best sunny day, it was a little overcast, but no rain. And proudly, our troops marched down that street. And every American heart that really loves this nation swelled up with pride. except for his. Maybe a few other Democrats that share that anti-American sentiment, but we know what we get when we look at Tim Walz. He has so much going on in his own state. Maybe he's right. Maybe his best place would have stayed in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Probably the best thing for him.
And
Yeah.
I have a
And wait a minute, not only the Tim Walzes of the world. When I saw his clip, I was thinking, you know what? I wonder where he really needs to put the tampon, maybe in his mouth or maybe in his AZZ. I told our supporter last week, I'm going to try not to curse as much. I'm going to say put it in his ass. That's where it needs to go. But these people they're just so melancholy, right? They evoke misery. They exude it. I mean, it just comes out of their pores. They can find almost nothing, if anything at all, to be excited about in the United States for our country, just for the sake of our country. Not only that, on PBS, there was an article, and the two people that were transcribed in the article were reporters, I think, John Yang and Richard Cohn. Not one time did they have anything positive to say about the parade. They made it all about Trump and, that he's just using this for his birthday. And this was, kind of, I'm paraphrasing, remnants of a dictatorship, things like that. Not only that, parades generally bring people together, regardless of your party or your affiliation. They are generally happy moments. Maybe if they had drag queens there, they would be a little bit more excited. What were you going to say, Yana?
Well, I was going to say we need to have these types of parades regularly. First of all, it's amazing for the entire country, for young people. And I also have a little critique of the soldiers because I watch the Russian parades every year on Victory Day, the World War II Victory Day parade. And if you guys have seen that, the soldiers, the generals, they're really marching, and they're marching perfectly. And these guys, I mean, I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
They're just strolling. They're not in sync. And it just looked like this is really their first time really parading. So I think they need to be practicing. They have to get really good at marching, at having, the expression on their faces has to be a certain way, that this is a proud moment, and really watch the Russian parades and just copy and just do it really, really, really grand. And who cares what these really, these people are, how, first of all, yes, they're so old. Like I'm like they're like, I don't think they're really thinking clearly. Like that old lady.
You talking about the U.S. Army, the people in the parade,
the protesters.
Oh, okay.
Like, who cares about the protesters? Like, we need to be really proud of this moment, and the soldiers who are parading just shouldn't be worried about the protesters. And that poor lady, the protester, I really felt like she was not really clear in her mind anymore.
Tyrone, you want to say something before you do, Tyrone? We have Kung Fu CJ again with his $2 super chat. Thank you, Kung Fu CJ. And he says 500 soldiers from Fort Stewart came to DC. There were soldiers from all over the country represented in that parade. Tyrone, were you going to say something?
No, I agree with Yana about the marching, and I think you do too. I think you know how to march.
Well, first of all, these people talking about it reminds them of a dictatorship or things like that. You know what? I know that they're exaggerating. Yes, we know dictators, Iran, North Korea, even the Soviet Union or former Soviet Union, they have marches. We get that. But the marching, the order, the precision, they are symbolic of the unity, right? And that, teamwork, and that's putting it lightly, okay? Working together, having a mission together. And yes, the President Trump and every other U.S. president is, was, and will be commander-in-chief of the United States military. The Army, if you being our old, is only a few months older than the Navy, okay? So why should we not showcase, if you will, our strength, our unity, our order, if you will, the things that we learned, our tanks, our big, great tanks, or big, beautiful machines, as President Trump might say. Not only that, it sends to the world that America is here. Our military is strong. We are capable, and we will respond when America's interests are being deterred or maybe, a little bit rattled. We're going to respond appropriately. And we shouldn't hide it. We don't have to hide who our military is and who our people are. Thank you, soldiers, airmen, sailors, Marines, Coast Guardsmen, all of you. I thank you for your service. Tyrone does. I think everyone here on the panel does. But yes, S-Files, peace through strength. And when we have to use strength, we're going to use it. Okay.
And think about this also. It's such an elementary argument. All the people out there that are saying, well, we're not Russia, we're not North Korea, because we're having a military parade. First of all, it's not unprecedented. We have had military parades before. All right. It's a way, as Yana said, to appreciate the military personnel, the men and women, because, hey, these presidents haven't been shy about sending them off to die. All right. So why not appreciate them as well? And also to raise some awareness of the public. Only 1% of the public is involved intimately with the military, okay, in this country, because we have an all-volunteer force. So I think it's healthy. And yeah, other countries have military parades too. Guess what? Hitler had a German Shepherd. So did we when I was young. Okay. So what does that mean? Okay.
And I think Eva Braun, I think she took care of animals or something, Eva Braun. So, I mean, whatever. I mean, just because Hitler, you don't want to follow Hitler and of course his murderous career, but nevertheless, because he had dogs or Eva Braun took care of animals doesn't mean that we're going to not have animals or dogs. People make the most extreme comparisons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the Russians have military parades. Great.
Exactly.
And I mean, I really think that, I'm thankful to Trump that he did this, and I hope that this continues, because it's so important for the morale of the entire country.
Exactly. Thank you, Vincent Harris. He says, respect my authority. That's exactly right, Vincent. Thank you for your super chat. But not only was there a parade in America, they're talking about the Tim Walzes, right? There were other things going on in Minnesota as well, unfortunately, to talk about contrasting, if you will. So in Minnesota over the weekend, as you all have heard, unfortunately, there were four shootings, and out of those four, unfortunately, 2 murders of political elected officials in Minnesota. We've had, let's going to go to clip number, help me out, producers. I forgot the clip on the top of my head, but the clip number, we're going to talk about the piece of shit is what I call him. But he's, in official terms, he's called the suspect, Vance Bolter shooting in the shootings in Minnesota. Let's go to clip number 4.
I do want to ask you about
5.
There was a state representative, Democratic leader of the state legislature in Minnesota, killed over the weekend, a state senator shot. How would you describe the current political atmosphere in this country this morning?
I feel like Trump has really popped the lid off the rhetoric and the sense of hate and violence and promoted this type of an environment. It's profoundly disturbing for all of us. We have seen increased threats across the country. You're probably familiar with the pizza threats. We've seen more of that, where pizzas or other food is delivered to people's families that they haven't ordered, just to say from the right wing, we know who you are, we know where you live. I can tell you all of our families feel a greatly heightened sense. And just let me just say, my heart goes out to the families in Minnesota. How horrific for the whole country, but particularly we're holding the folks in Minnesota in our hearts.
Yeah, no place in this country for political violence of any kind.
Yeah. So on Sunday, Vance Luther Bolter, and from here on out, I'll just say piece of shit, but he was captured on Sunday, according to the New York Post, following a manhunt in which he was accused of and alleged to have murdered Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband, and shot John Hoffman, a senator of Minneapolis or Minnesota, and his wife. Her name was Yvette. It was a 2-day manhunt in Minnesota, and this accused murderer, piece of shit, he was taken into custody. He was found in some rural wooded areas in the Sibley County part of Minneapolis, and the police received a tip about a possible sighting earlier. This guy, this piece of shit, was going around in police uniform or tactical gear, pretending to be a police officer, knocking on these elected officials' doors and saying that he was a police, asking to come in. And unfortunately, it was too late when they realized that he really was up to no good. And now here we are a couple days later, we have 2 dead elected officials and 2 of them still wounded and in the hospital. The question becomes, can we predict political violence? What is going on with political violence? Is it increasing, as some reports have said? Is there some horrific instigation of this political violence, i.e., what is causing it? What's contributing to it? Let's talk about this. Nicole, what do you think?
Listen, we live in a perpetual news cycle, and that is pretty much new to the American public. Not everybody is a politico and can discern, when it's time to take a step back. We look at our own KJ. KJ works really hard. She's got all these shows. She's doing all of these things. And when you get to a point where it's summertime and you need to take a break, to take a step back, some people don't have that level of awareness. And they really start to believe not only their own hype, but the hype that they hear in a 24-hour news cycle. This person is saying this about you. That person is saying this other thing about you. If you don't have a good support network around you, you too could crack. Anybody could crack under that kind of pressure. Is that an excuse for this man's despicable acts? Absolutely not. But he too was is still very human. It is remarkable to see CNN talking about now is the time to stop political violence, where they tried to shoot Trump in the head. Oh, it was a ricochet. Oh, he wasn't hurt. The Band-Aids are fake. Where was all of this? We have to stop this kind of rhetoric when that happened. It was very short-lived. We have got to find a way to have civil discussions again in this country.
Yeah. Tyrone, many people, or I wouldn't say many people, some people are saying, the political rhetoric, we always hear the media particularly say, we need to tone it down. Some people say, no, we need to be able to say what people are thinking. We can't always go and just arrest people for what they say. How do we find a balance? Is there a way to tone down the rhetoric without impinging on the free speech of anyone else? Again, this guy had a manifesto, and he allegedly, he has talked about 45 or more people that he was going after. And it looks like from the early reports, he was on his way to possibly shooting other people. Maybe they weren't there, things like that. But he's written about this apparently, allegedly. And other people have written manifestos, or they've given some kind of notice on social media, some clues. How do we kind of find this balance?
Well, first and foremost, we need to call out the Democrats who have consistently called for violence for years now. I mean, high profile people like Cory Booker, Nancy Pelosi is out there saying, punch him in the face. What is her name from LA? The mummified crypt keeper.
Maxine Waters.
I'm glad you all know who that is. Right.
Mummified.
Her other name. All of these, Chuck Schumer, remember when he threatened the Supreme Court justices over the Roe v. Wade decision? Okay, so you've got a contingent of Democrat politicians and celebrities as well who have been ratcheting this up for years. Madonna, remember what she said at the first inauguration, that she dreamed about doing things, you know?
Oh, yes.
All right. So the other thing is, and I would encourage people to really study a program, a CIA program. There's a lot of declassified information out there about MK Ultra. When you look at a lot of these people, and you know, this particular guy, there's a lot going on with this guy in terms of where did he come from? You know, how did he get the motivation to do this? I also think this is a cautionary tale. So he dressed up like a police officer. Ladies and gentlemen, avail yourself of your Second Amendment right. And when things go bump in the night, okay, you're in a position to make sure you come out of it, you and your family come out of it on top. Okay. Looks like they trusted the fact that this guy, look, I don't care who you are. If you come to my door at 2 a.m. in the morning, no, you're not just getting in here. Okay. I don't give a damn who you are. All right. So, and I'm not out there. I'm not Pablo Escobar. So there's no reason for you to kick my door down. Okay. So I would strongly consider, you know, advise rather people to be very, very cautious in this environment.
Yana, before you get in here, I want to shout out our super chatters. We have Republic Room. He says, or I'm sorry, she says, channel support. I love my president, US, my country. Allegedly, the paid LA protesters were more if they were muscular men, or paid more if they were muscular men, about $1,500 to $1,800 a week. I'm glad President Trump respects our military. Yes, we are too. Thank you, Republic Room, for that. Kung Fu CJ is back again. He says they are trying to make him a Trump supporter. Okay, thank you for that. Keep up the super chats, keep up the liking, the subscribing, the sharing, and going to our link to purchase our merchandise. But Yana, what say you? This is horrific. These killings, these murders of these politicians, and then the attempted murder of the other two. What can we do? I mean, should we not have, not just a parade, whatever, but how do we do that? I just want to hear from your experience, Yana, because we have a lot of people in the chat who are glad that you were back. And you bring, again, that former Soviet Union kind of perspective, that history to compare and contrast. How can we in the U.S. better manage these, or are they manageable?
Well, one thing in terms of managing the crazies, we need to do something about mental health crisis, because the issue here that we have is that mental illness is celebrated. That's what I've been noticing. It's accept your feelings, whatever you feel is fine. And that's, mostly that's what we see on the left. All these people who are coming out and acting completely insane and just letting any kind of feelings that they have, they're just allowing it. And we see the protesters, attacking people on the street, screaming, yelling. So of course, this person, whatever he was feeling, he just let his feelings flow, and then it flowed into this horrific act. So we need to take these people away from society. Anyone who is having mental illness that is really severe, they cannot be staying in society, and that is how other countries deal with that.
Yeah. Now I want to challenge a little bit, maybe not so much challenge, but so other countries might do that, yes, but unfortunately in America, at least, not all people with mental illness, they don't necessarily have these, obvious psychotic breaks. It's not so obvious that they're sociopaths, if you will, things like that. Many of them have not necessarily committed, I'm going to say, violent or criminal acts where they would be incarcerated or. So it's a little tricky here. And I mean, we can't necessarily predict which crazy is going to go up to a politician's home, no less, and murder the couple, shoot the other ones. We can't necessarily predict that. So I don't even know if we can manage this.
People need to be more connected. That's another thing. And if someone would have noticed what this guy is about, because if you know what your neighbor is about, if you're communicating with your family, and you will notice that someone is having making strange comments, maybe buying ammunitions and guns and saying that they're going to go
Now,
and shoot
Yana, see
somebody.
you barking up the wrong
No,
tree there,
I'm
y'all.
not
I gotta push
saying
back.
they can't
No,
buy it,
no,
but
no,
if
no, no,
someone
no,
is
no. I'm
buying
saying,
it and
look, I'm saying
saying,
that
I'm going to
because
shoot up a
you
place.
said if they're saying strange comments or they're buying guns or ammunition, that again, that literally goes right into our First Amendment and Second Amendment rights of our Constitution. No, I'm saying saying strange things is not necessarily meaning that you're mentally ill or you're going to commit murder or attempted murder. So Tyrone, help us out there. Nicole, jump in here. I mean, how do we balance out? And I'm asking this for specific. Let me tell you why. Remember last week I mentioned Alan Dershowitz's book. It just came in the mail. I haven't really gone through it. I literally just got it. I think Amazon. Thank you on Sunday. But I went right to the chapter 9. He's talking about preventing dangerous and or offensive speech. So one of the problems we have, if you want to call it that, or I'll say challenges we have, is our First Amendment. Everything that someone says, it may be offensive, it may even be quote unquote dangerous, but that doesn't necessarily warrant them to be swept up, locked up, incarcerated. Tyrone, what say you?
All right, let me take a quick look at JT Thompson. Made a comment, says, of course, you could just call 911 and ask if an officer had been dispatched to your home. Easy with the trigger finger, brother. As a former first responder, I can assure you that when seconds count, we're minutes away. Now, of course, I would do that. But what happens when the dispatcher says, no, we don't have anybody out there? Then what? Right. Okay. Beg and plead, please. I'm not the guy that's going to be begging and pleading for somebody to make it to my house real quick to protect my family. I'm going to take that responsibility upon myself first and foremost. Right. So I get what you're saying. Yeah, of course, that would be a prudent move. But then you tell me, what do you do when they say, no, we don't have anybody over at your house? Yeah. So in terms of the free speech aspect of it, look, we live in a society that we got to decide what we want more of. Okay. What we want, what do we want? We want freedom or we want security. Okay. I want freedom. Now, freedom ain't free. Okay. It comes with, possibly a lot of danger. Okay. Who do we want to be? We want to be the lion at the Baltimore Zoo. They throw a porterhouse over the fence every now and then, or do we want to be the lion on the Serengeti? We're free, but comes with a lot more responsibility. Right. Okay.
Right. Nicole. So again, let me get Kung Fu CJ. I'm sorry. Kung Fu CJ with a $5 super chat. Thank you. He says the problem is he was appointed by Walz and his wife also worked for Walz. Okay. I mean, people work for whomever, right? Politics aside, they work for whomever. But Nicole, talking about Walz, there are many in the media who are trying to find a way to blame President Trump. You knew it was coming,
I do
right?
want to ask you about what has happened in Minnesota. You have a lawmaker and her husband assassinated. You have another lawmaker, a state senator, who was shot along with his wife. What are your great concerns after seeing what happened and hearing from police that this was likely a politically motivated attack?
My biggest concern is that we as a society are normalizing political violence. And you see this on many points on the political spectrum. The denigration and attacking of elected officials that you disagree with. It becomes incredibly, it's hateful and dehumanizing. And it puts in people's minds the idea that violence is an acceptable way to carry out your political viewpoints. And you see this in much of the dialogue that we have. No one side of the political spectrum has a monopoly on it. It's certainly, you've seen it on the right and the left. But President Trump is the biggest problem here. I mean, he has used hateful, degrading rhetoric from the day he decided to run for president. And then pardoning all of the January 6th attackers at the U.S. Capitol, people who thought that violence was a legitimate way to overturn an election. And Donald Trump gave him a big stamp of approval. You also heard Trump muttering about possibly pardoning the people who attempted to kidnap the governor of Michigan. Look, if Donald Trump and the Republican Party want this kind of thing to stop, they need to change their rhetoric and stop pardoning people who commit acts that are dangerous to this. Representative democracy is dependent upon people running for office and holding those offices. If you think running for office means that you're a legitimate target for violence, that significantly undermines our representative democracy. And I am deeply worried about it. And I hope all of our leaders will begin to change that rhetoric.
Nicole, how can they even utter the words that we can blame Trump for the rhetoric? This man was attempted to be assassinated twice. What do you say to this, Nicole?
You know, this is someone who clearly does not understand the true meaning of political violence. You know, people are violent. Men are violent. I don't mean that as a sex thing, but generally speaking, people are violent. If our communities are violent, you don't think that's going to creep into politics, right? Where the rhetoric has always been high. This is not new. People have always used sharp language. Has he ever been to Chicago or anywhere in Louisiana during an election time? They almost come to blows on the regular basis. People get passionate about their arguments, but that passion turns certain types of people, to Yana's point, who are already predisposed to, I don't want to say predisposed to violence, but they pick a side and they don't hear anything else. And when someone on that side says, you know, Steve Scalise is a terrible guy, then those damn Republicans, they got to go. Those are the guys who show up to the congressional baseball game and start shooting at legislators as they're standing in the outfield. You know, I was one of the lucky ones who was there at that game, and we all got down on the ground and were scurrying for our lives. You want to talk about political violence. It had nothing necessarily to do with politics and everything to do with somebody who's having some sort of break. It was not normal. It had nothing to do with Trump. Trump had nothing to do with it. It had nothing to do with anything other than this man in his mind seeing something that was wholly not true. They're going to blame Trump for everything. The moon is out, it's Trump's fault. The sun comes up, it's Trump's fault. It's raining outside, it's his fault. They got a fart, it's his fault. Everything is Trump's fault, except for when the nation wins. And while they were complaining, this nation was having a great day for the most part.
Yep.
And I just wanted to add, what bothers me is when something like this happens, all we hear is media creating their own narrative. When I really want to see real investigation, which I do not know if we're going to see, why these people were targeted. I mean, from what I know, they have, or at least Melissa Hartman has voted against her party, and she was a Democrat, and she voted against her party in a bill about healthcare for illegal aliens. So I hope that there's going to be a real investigation of what is the motive, however crazy, that this person had. And then are there people, others involved? Who else was he talking to? Because a lot of times someone who is radicalized like that, they might be communicating, most likely communicating with others. Someone might be pushing him. Like Tyrone mentioned, this might be some sort of program that is being run that is programming people to think a certain way, to turn to violence when someone says go. So I really hope that there's going to be real answers to this.
Right. Well, let me say this again for the end of this segment, if you will. We do not condone any violence against any politician, against any person for that matter, regardless of your politics. Okay. This piece of shit was allegedly, he was wrong. He was evil for what he did. And I hope he's prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I don't care what side those politicians were on, whether it be Democratic, Independent, Republican, they did not deserve, nor should this piece of shit have gone to their homes to try to murder them and actually succeed in murdering two of them. He should be prosecuted to the fullest extent, including the death penalty. I hope that's available in Minnesota. So our prayers and our hearts go out to their families, their friends, and to the state of Minnesota. And again, I'm going to say, God bless America. We do not condone political violence. I don't care if you are utterly against whatever side I'm on or anybody else that I know. So that's just that. Put a stamp in it. Bam. That's it. Moving on. I mean, there was so much happening this weekend. Before I go on, I want to give a shout out again to our super chatters. We have Kung Fu CJ again. He says the 2A was put in place to protect the others. Absolutely, including yourself as well, your family, yourself, your property, your life. That is important. But again, we need you all in the chat to hit that like, subscribe, and share buttons. Let's put up our merchandise link. Producers, help us out here. You can go to our merchandise. Nicole has her black, white, not black, not white. We are Americans and don't let them divide us mug. You can get that. You can get t-shirts. You can get other hoodies on our website at Metro Conservative Media .com/poppinpolitics live and go to the shop link. There it is right there. And we are coming out with some new stuff. So you got to go. You get the old. That way you'll be considered a classic popper. And then you can get the new and you can have both and you can wear both and show off your gear. If you show off your gear, take a picture of it and send it to us and we will show it on the show when we get it. So thank you for your subscriptions. Thank you for supporting us, but keep hitting that like. I do want to say a few hellos to our moderators. I don't want to forget you guys tonight. Thank you. I think Allie's in the chat and the S Files. I think I saw Coaster earlier. I'm not sure, but thank you all. Wendy, thank you out there for sticking with us. And KJ will be back this week. So all of you who miss her, just keep your tissues coming. She'll be out and she'll be back later this week. You'll see her. All right. Moving on to, again, some big news, international affairs. Over the weekend, Israel struck Iran, right? They hit Tehran pretty significantly. They hit some of their nuclear sites. They hit Tehran and literally took out 9 or more of their officials. And so now, of course, Iran responded by sending some drones into Israel. And a number of people were also killed. Collateral damage is what they call it, I guess, in the this ongoing battle now between Iran and Israel. So let's talk about what happened. I'm trying to get to the clip here and I can't see it on my screen, producer. I want to go to clip number. It's coming. Let's go to clip number 7.
Have you heard any signals or seen any messages from intermediaries that Iran wishes to de-escalate the conflict?
Yeah.
What have you heard? What have you heard from the Iranians?
They'd like to talk, but they should have done that before. I had 60 days and they had 60 days, and on the 61st day I said, we don't have a deal. They have to make a deal, and it's painful for both parties, but I'd say Iran is not winning this war, and they should talk, and they should talk immediately before it's too late.
So President Trump here is talking about if Iran is going to talk now, come to the table, because there was supposed to be a summit, if you will, between the United States, Iran, and other players, Israel, on Sunday. That did not happen. Now President Trump is being asked by the reporters, well, what are you going to do? What if Iran wants to stop now? And there are reports, Wall Street Journal is reporting that Iran is ready to talk now, right? So we'll see where that goes. But there is a debate going on whether or not Israel should have done this or not, should have bombed Iran, and even more importantly for the United States, are we going to be drawn into this war? Tyrone, that's a lot there going on. What say you?
Well, I certainly hope that we're not drawn into a war with Iran. However, the thing is, if they are developing nuclear weaponry, then that could be a threat to us. Many years ago, Iran, a lot of intelligence folk were confident that they really couldn't do anything because their ICBMs would go up into the upper atmosphere and just, detonate up there. And they were like, well, they obviously can't get it over here, right? But then others started to think, well, maybe that is the prelude to them doing something unconventional, like detonating an electromagnetic pulse over the American continent, in which case it would take us back to the Stone Ages, literally. Okay. I mean, It would be very bad. Electronics would be unserviceable. First 3 days, every dialysis patient in this country would be dead.
Mhm.
So it, and then on from there. So there are a lot of permutations to this. And I think that Iran has behaved in such a fashion over the past few decades that proves that you don't want them to have a nuclear weapon. Okay. If your neighbor down the street keeps saying death to you and your household, the last thing you want to see that neighbor get is a bunch of weapons. All right. Because they might mean it. Right.
Right.
So hopefully they're serious in terms of wanting to talk, but let's not forget they were on their heels before the Obama and the Biden administration empowered them with billions of dollars. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, this might not be happening at all, but for the incompetence of those two administrations with regard to their policy toward Iran.
Right. Wow. Nicole, there are neocons, there are traditional conservatives, and there are even some isolationists on, on the right, if you will, all different positions. Neocons are typically, they want to go, they want to be intervening in other world affairs, right? Traditional conservatives, they want to just maintain the limited government. They don't really want the U.S. to be in too many things, not necessarily against foreign intervention, but not necessarily for it. Isolationists, straight no. If America is entered into this war via President Trump on his watch, will that have an effect on the MAGA faction, if you will, of the Republican Party? Will it matter? Will President Trump, will it look like he's going back on his words? Because he did promise, the U.S. is not going to be involved in these wars. It's going to end endless wars. America first. How does the United States being involved in this Israeli war, how does that portend with the America first agenda?
I think it's going to be an interesting time in that I don't think there's anyone in MAGA world that wants to see Iran with a nuclear weapon. I don't think there's anyone in the regular world who wants to see Iran with a nuclear weapon. I mean, their behavior has been erratic. Tyrone is right. Pallets of billions of US dollars, turning a blind eye to them, ramping up their nuclear capabilities. 100% our fault. And I say our, I don't mean conservatives, I mean America. 100% our fault. So here we sit. And it is remarkable that Israel has managed to do so much damage so very quickly. It tells me that this wasn't something that was, by the seat of their pants. This was well thought out, well planned. They knew what they were doing. But the world is not ready for someone who sponsors terrorism, not just against the United States, but against many, many people in the world, to have the capability to destroy so absolutely. So I think MAGA world would say, we don't want boots on the ground. We definitely don't want that. We don't want American sons and daughters dying in a war that's not ours. By that same token, we too have some fairly sophisticated weaponry. We do have a couple of little Trump cards to play, so to speak, if things get out of control. With the latest breaking news that Trump is leaving G7 early to get back to deal with this mess, I think is a testament to how serious this situation is and him wanting to bring peace no matter what, with the exception of Iran having capability to destroy someone else on the planet. We just can't stand by for that.
Right. That is some of the news coming out just recently, that Trump is leaving the G7 summit. Yana, before I get to you, I want to play clip number 8.
Israel is a sovereign nation. I'm a big supporter of Israel, big supporter of Israeli nationalism. It's a sovereign nation. It has to make decisions that are right for it, as it should, as all nations on earth should do. But when you start making decisions that are predicated upon the assumption that America is going to come in, not just for defense, but for offense, because the same crowded fox all weekend has been sounding the war toxins. America's got to go on offense. We have to go on offense. We have to support. We've got the equipment. We've got the pilots. We have the refueling. We have to help them take out Fodor, the second and the most, the one that's more secure in the mountainside. We have to be there. No, we have to make decisions that put America first. This has to be thought through. This Pearl Harbor type attack on the mullahs is fine for Israel, but is it right for the United States when we have 10 million illegal alien invaders just on Biden's watch in the United States, particularly in our major cities, which President Trump comes out last night and says we're going to double and triple down to get them out. That's the war we face.
So Yana, before I go to you, I want to say hi, Wendy. Thank you for your super chat, for your $2 super chat. And Wendy says, what we just talked about, Trump leaving the G7 summit, and he's moving everything out of Tehran. Thank you, Wendy, for that super chat. So Yana, again, amidst this Israel-Iran war, battle, conflict, whatever you want to call it, there's some talk about having Putin be sort of a mediator, if you will, a negotiator. First, before you talk about that, Yana, I want to talk about this. Just mention this a little bit. Russia right now.
Israel's a sovereign nation.
Russia has been put out of the G7. It was G8, and they excluded Russia, right? Russia is not a member of NATO. Russia is a member of the United Nations security forces, security apparatus, but two parts, Yana. Is it a good thing that Russia is kind of this hanging out there on the periphery, or is this would it be a good use to use Putin as a negotiator for this Iran-Israel conflict?
And I think that's what's going to happen, actually, because I'm not the only one who's saying that. There have been people in the past who have said, well, particularly in Russia, during first Trump's term, is that eventually Trump and Putin will come together and will talk, and they probably have been talking, and they might be working things out on how to have this new world order that Russia and US can work these things out. I don't know how exactly, but there's going to be peace if these two nations come together, because they're very powerful nations with nuclear capabilities, and all these other countries like Iran, they're terrified. Right now, the fact that Iran wants to talk is because there's probably like two guys left in charge, and they're terrified. That's the only reason why they would even want to talk. You know, why they yell and scream how they, death to America and death to Israel, and now they want to talk because there's barely nothing left of them anymore. So yes, Putin, and it doesn't matter whether Putin is in those official meetings or not, someone will talk to him. And I think eventually Putin and Trump will work together.
Yeah.
Tyrone, should we trust Putin? I mean, can we trust Putin to be a negotiator? And if that's going to be his role in this particular circumstance?
The G7 used to be the G8. Barack Obama and a person named Trudeau didn't want to have Russia in. And I would say that was a mistake, because I think you wouldn't have a war right now if you had Russia in. And you wouldn't have a war right now if Trump were president 4 years ago. But it didn't work out that way. But it used to be the G8, and now it's, I guess, what's that, 8 years ago, it switched over. They threw Russia out, which I claimed was a very big mistake. Even though I wasn't in politics then, I was very loud about it. It was a mistake in that you spend so much time talking about Russia, and he's no longer at the table, so it makes life more complicated. But you wouldn't have had the war. Other than that, I think we're going to accomplish a lot, and I expect to. And I think our primary focus will be trade, and trade with Canada, and I'm sure we can work something out.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so.
Yeah,
I
think that Putin can be trusted to do what is in the best interest of Russia, and what is in the best interest of Russia isn't too much different than a lot of the things that are in our best interest, which is, economic prosperity, which is going to have a better time of flourishing under, peace than it would under, a whole bunch of wars going on. And I think that the hardliners in the West have relied on this Russia demon, for far too long, This isn't the 80s anymore. Okay. It's time to move forward. I'm not saying how fast that would be, but yeah, I mean, look, Russia is a world power. Russia is the largest landmass, I believe. It's either Russia or it's Russia. Okay. Tons and tons of resources as far as the eye can see. A nuclear power. All right. A power that is very old. All right. And one that should be respected. So I think that if we want a prosperous world, then I think Russia's got to be a part of that. I'll say this and I'll end it. If we don't incorporate some sort of relationship with Russia, then China will. We put them out of the G8, they went to BRICS. Okay. So I think it's in our interest that Russia become, a full-fledged partner of some sorts with America and the West.
Nicole, I have another question for you, but Yana, before I go to Nicole, Yana, since Israel has, I guess I'm going to say they bombed Tehran. I don't want to say started the conflict because Iran has been a thorn in their ass for a long time. But since Israel bombed Iran, is this a similar situation? Can you relate this at all to Putin invading Ukraine? Are there any comparisons or contrasts?
Oh, I can see a comparison. I can see a similarity that if somebody keeps threatening another country, that's what and people don't realize that Ukraine has been threatening Russia together with the collective West and together with NATO. So it is a similar kind of situation. I can see that. And what Steve Bannon mentioned is that he would like to see US stay out of it for now. And I agree with that because really, if US needs to be ready, but still stay out of these conflicts because in terms of the Russia-Ukraine situation, if US stayed out of it, that conflict would be done very quickly. Then with the Iranian situation as well, Israel has been planning this probably for decades, and they can work this out. If they, US just needs to be ready in case, it gets out of control, but we have our problems here and we should just watch what's going on.
Yeah. Before I come to you, Nicole, Israel has been doing a pretty good job so far this weekend. And let's see clip number 9, and just to prove that point.
که شنیدید صدای متجاوز به خاک وطن، صدای متجاوز به صدای حق و حقیقت است. آنچه که ملاحظه کردید، صدایی که شنیدید، فضای غبارآلوده استادیوم
Wow. I don't know why I'm laughing. I'm sorry. I'm not right. I want y'all to know I'm not right, but I don't know why I'm laughing at that. But it reminded me of somebody in the kitchen, you cooking something, a woman that can't cook, and it's like, boom, but I know it's worse than that. I'm not supposed to be laughing.
I knew what she was saying. Like, I want to know the translation because that would make it more interesting.
Right.
I will give it to her. I'll give her props. She exited the scene very calmly. Quickly.
Yeah. Stage left. Stage right.
Stepping out of that thing. Listen, I'm not making fun of her. I'm not making fun of the horror that she probably had to live through. But you can tell by her body language, it was nothing nice that she was saying. Well, people get that finger wagging, and she was talking her trash, and then boom.
Israel we have a few super chats or comment. I think it was the S-File said she laughed too. Junior there. Oh, thank you. Yep, the S-File said I laughed too, Shelly. It's okay. I'm sorry. Whatever. I laughed. Junior says I don't want to live through the aftermath of a nuclear attack. Keep the comments coming, guys. The S-Files also says she sounded like she was ranting like a lion. Okay. Well, lions roar. I don't know what she was like. She She's like a banshee. But Nicole, final question for this. So this international Israel-Iran conflict now, of course, the U.S., I'm going to say we at least on the periphery of it, okay? We're not directly involved in it, at least not right now, maybe never will be. But there are some conservatives who are adamantly against the U.S. being involved at all, namely Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, right? I'm just going to paraphrase. They have been saying that we don't need to be in this war. This is not in America's interest. This is not America first. Stay out of it. Candace Owens, I think she's a little bit more vulgar, if I can use that word, about it. Basically, this is a sort of a anti-Israel. She doesn't want anything to do with Israel for whatever anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish reasons, whatever her reasons are. But do they have a point? I mean, again, I know we talked about in the beginning MAGA or America First, but these are some prominent conservatives, and they have a huge following as well. Are they making any kind of valid points about not being involved?
I think anytime Candace Owens and Israel are mentioned in the same sentence, conservatives turn their ears off, because she's made it very plainly clear where she stands on that issue. So she's bringing a bit of bias, some prejudice, and some other stuff with her to the table, not necessarily looking at it from America's purview. Again, there can't be any right-thinking individual that says, well, yeah, Iran should have a nuclear weapon. We trust them. We trust them enough that they're going to do the right thing by the world. They've shown us repeatedly they're never going to do right by the world. They don't have the capacity to understand that it's not just about you. It reminds me, like, Iran is like, your little stepsister that comes to live with you, and she's used to having everything she wants. And when she doesn't get it, she pitches a fit, except for their fit could kill millions of people. So this is not something that we can tolerate.
Right.
I know that Tucker Carlson feels like, unless it's a direct attack on the United States, that we should not intervene, but we are the world superpower. So we do have to stand at the ready. The only thing standing between the most of this world and absolute evil and destruction is the stars and stripes. And that's just truth. Absolute truth.
Well, we have another clip here. We're going to play this clip and we're going to respond to it. I'll respond to it.
Some people on the right, they're saying, don't forget about Iraq. How are you reconciling these issues?
Well, first, this is the moment that President Trump was elected for. Thank God that we have President Trump in the Oval Office with this high stakes situation. Look, President Trump 10 years ago, he went down the golden escalator. And when he announced for the presidency 10 years ago to this day, he remade the Republican Party on foreign policy. He said no more permanent wars in the Middle East. He criticized the Bush-Cheney philosophy of endless quagmires. Albeit, though, he is not an isolationist. He is willing to use violent and precise force against our enemies, like taking out Soleimani or dropping the Moab, if and when necessary. President Trump understands his base extraordinarily well. He knows that his base does not want another Iraq. He does not want Libya, does not want a civil war or bedlam where the United States is left carrying the bag. But also President Trump has been morally clear for a decade. Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. And President Trump has the talent, the expertise to be able to thread that needle. The generation that I represent, Jesse, the under 30 crowd, they absolutely are very war weary. Many of them voted for President Trump on college campuses because they did not want to see a Joe Biden or George Bush philosophy where we get into this endless conflict where we're sending hundreds of billions of dollars. I think President Trump will be able to balance those two things while defending our allies, saying that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon without having to deploy a single American troop or even having America involved from the sky. President Trump can get that deal done while fulfilling the mandate that the voters gave him.
Yeah. I would like to say to this, again, I am not an isolationist. Yes, I'm on the right, if you will, the right side. I'm not an isolationist, never have been. I do believe that America, we should be involved in the foreign affairs that will certainly affect us, and certainly when our allies are at stake. Israel has been under attack. Israel is under attack from pretty much every nation that surrounds it, certainly Iran. And if we can support Israel, regardless of the Candace Owens or even Tucker Carlson's of the world, whom I admire their work. I don't necessarily disagree with them on everything, but if we can help secure Israel also, in which also secures our interest in that region of the world, then we can be involved in it. We don't have to have boots on the ground, but there are other ways, like Charlie Kirk is suggesting, there are other ways to balance between being an isolationist or a full neocon. It's called diplomacy. It's called meeting at the table. If we need to have Putin involved, like Nicole was saying, then let's do that. We may not have to have a direct say, if you will, at every drop of the bomb or whatever the case may be, but we do need to be involved. This is symbolic for me in that we had the parade on this weekend. It was Flag Day, of course, President Trump's birthday. But from an international perspective, I think we were great. It was great to have that parade because it did showcase our power. And in some way, in my thinking, it also showcased us backing up Israel to a degree, if you will. Netanyahu, he's handling this very well so far. I do believe we are already involved. We have been involved. We've never not been involved. We have air power. We have defense power. We have financial power. We don't have to have boots on the ground, but we do need to be involved. I don't think it's a matter of President Trump going back on his word or changing the rhetoric, if you will. President Trump is a realist. He's also a pragmatist. And one thing I will believe with my whole heart, he loves America and he wants our borders, our country, and our people to be protected, not just on American soil, but he wants us protected even when we go abroad. So for that, that's my little 2 cents. That's my never to be humble opinion. I think we do have to back up Israel.
Well,
That's
I
it.
want to
Anybody?
add to, I would like to add to that for Iran, when they don't separate Israel from the United States.
Good
So,
point.
for them, it's one and the same, and not just for them, for Islamic fundamentalists in that
Right.
entire region. And
That's right.
just like you said, Shelley, that Israel is attacked from every direction in that region, and people in the West need to really understand the threat of radical Islam, that they
Yeah.
they want to take over the world, and Europe is actually under attack from within by the people who share a very radical ideology. And
Iran having nuclear weapons is an existential threat. That is a real existential threat to the west of the world, if you will, or the civilized nations of the world. Iran does not need to and should not be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. They're not using it for nuclear energy, okay? But JT Thompson there, thank you for your super chat, JT. He says, I'm sorry. Oh, JT Thompson, a $10 super chat. He says, it is not a black and white kind of situation. Probably the best answer is to observe and be ready. Now is not the time to cut off options. Never base a decision on the opinion of an extremist. I agree. And I do want to add this. If Iran is ready to talk, we should always be ready to have everyone at the table and talk. When we can prevent innocent death, we should always have that table ready to hear from all the sides involved. So we should never cut that off. That should always be an open table. If you're ready to come to the table and talk, you better come, better be serious. Don't waste our time. We don't want innocent people dying. And we don't want our soldiers dying unnecessarily. If you're ready to talk, come correct. And that's it.
I would say there needs to be a regime change in Iran. There's a huge opposition in Iran to the current government that they have. It's huge. The opposition is there. And I've met people like when I traveled to Central Asia, I've met people from Iran, and the first thing they would say is, we love Trump. So it's amazing, the type of opposition that they have there, and they need to be given a chance. I would like to see Iran to be a more secular country, the way how it used to be.
Right.
Used to be. Yep. Well, we're going to keep an eye on this, of course. There's going to be, I'm sure, endless news reports about it. Even tonight, before we go to bed, we're probably going to hear some updates, and we need to be aware. But that was an international segment. We're going to bring a little bit back to the domestic side with an international twist, talking about the USAID. that organization that was doged early on, now it's coming out that all of the fraud, waste, and abuse that they're finding that's been found. And now we have, guess what? A few of the officials of USAID were running a scam. Oh, shocking, right? Running some kind of scam, buybacks, bribery, whatever, to the tune of $50+ million of dollars. Okay, $50+ million on the taxpayer. I'm sorry, $550+ million on the taxpayer dime that has been wasted, uncovered, discovered in this bribery scheme. So we're talking about this tonight. Before I go on, I want to again say hey to our super chatters. Thank you for chatting. We love your comments. Did I get them all so far? Yes. This is Pop. Say that again. I'm sorry.
I said, yep, you got them all.
Okay, great. So again, hit that like, subscribe, and share button. And also, again, don't forget our merchandise at popandpoliticslive.com. I think I said it incorrectly earlier, but it's popandpoliticslive.com. And we have, I'm sorry, I have a message here. I'm just looking at this note. We have some breaking news. Is this all military bases in the U.S. and Indo-Pacific have raised their force protection from Alpha to Bravo. So as you all know, many of you know, Tyrone, you can jump in here and correct me, ad lib. When a force threat goes, they go through a series of letters, A, B, Alpha, Bravo, to active and engage. Again, I am, summarizing it. So the force condition has changed across some bases around the U.S. for military bases from Alpha to Bravo. So take that with President Trump leaving the G7. I'm not saying anything's happened. I don't have any secret clearance, necessary information coming across my computer. I'm just kind of putting together maybe something's going to be happening in the very near future. So let's keep that in prayer, keep those situations in prayer as well. So again, but back to this USAID, $550 million. And that's only the drop in the bucket of it, because I'm sure there's more. And that's bribery scheme involving the USAID agency. First, Roderick Watson of Maryland. Why are they always in Maryland? Please, somebody tell me. Why is it always Roderick Watson of Maryland is alleged to have received the bribes. There was another co-person with him. Also, these two companies, Aprio and Vistant, I think I'm saying it correctly, these consulting companies, they were some kind of kickback scheme. I still haven't figured out how they did it, but there were so many different layers. Before I go to the clip, I want to say, Tyrone, right off the bat, what are you thinking about this?
Well, it's the tip of the iceberg. I mean, couple of weeks ago, they got the woman that was guilty of the $66 million food stamp fraud. You got these guys with this fraud. This is going on all over the government. You got bureaucrats that have been dug in. They know the system. They know how to exploit it, and they're doing it. So look for more of this.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, but this is my question I had. Can we really rein in fraud, waste, and abuse on a government scale? I mean, seriously, I want to know. I want to understand better. Nicole, our government is so big. Can we reasonably rein it in? If so, what can we do that we're not doing?
Do you know, I wish I could say yes to that, Shelley. I really could. I wish I could say yes. But, in the Federalist Papers, they tell us that if governments were made of angels, then we wouldn't need government, right? But they're men. Right. And when the cat's away, the mice are going to play. And this was definitely a very large, very wealthy slush fund. So as we continue to investigate what happened, what is still happening, there are going to be eyebrows raised all across this nation of people who have taken our tax dollars and just run amok. I do believe that fraud, waste, and abuse as a regulation, being in healthcare, we hear that all the time. We take the training all the time. And you still find people who find a way to cheat the system, to game the system. I wish I could say that we could bring it to heel. Truth of the matter is, if we can weed out 60% of it, I'm calling it a win. I don't need people to say it has to be 100 or it's not a win. 60% of all of the money that they're wasting, I think at some point we can say, okay, we've done some, but there's still more work to do.
Right.
Well, now, let me say this real quick. Let's take a trip to the Republic of Tyronistan, very quickly. And in Tyronistan, public corruption is, we've taken some pages out of the Chinese book, okay, on how to handle that. You get harsh with this stuff, I mean, really harsh, then it will send a message. Now, it is true that China still deals with this, but I think that there is a way to discourage people strongly from doing this sort of thing. And when the benevolent sovereign of Tyronistan does like this, you know you messed up. Okay, we just need to get real harsh with it.
So this, okay, I'm going to read to you from the justice.gov report, or the charges that are filed, I guess. 4 men, 3 of them are from Maryland. Roderick Watson, as I said, he's from Woodstock, Maryland. Sounds familiar to somebody? 57 years old. Walter Barnes of Potomac, Maryland, right down there in Montgomery County. We have a Daryl Britt of Mayaca City, Florida, and Paul Young, wouldn't you know it, of Columbia, Maryland. These were either they were government contracting officers working for USAID. There was this these other companies or consulting companies called Aprio and Vistant. They were government contractor companies to do what? I don't know. I don't know what. That's what I don't understand. But they all agreed to this criminal liability, where it was this kickback scheme, and I guess they were supposed to get contracts in, or get the money from the government, disperse the aid around the country, around the different countries that they're serving. And then somehow or another, Aprio and Vistant were supposed to be the holding companies. This is my understanding. But yet they took some money off the top, whatever. So this is what I want to understand. I wrote this question down because I did want to ask you, Tyrone, Yana, before I go to you, I'm sorry. Tyrone, how is lobbying different from this kind of scheme, bribery? Because Congress is involved in this.
Right. Well, first of all, there are a lot of rules to lobbying. You have to be a registered lobbyist, number one. And the rules around gifting and that sort of thing are very, very strict. In the wake of what was that guy's name? He was a lobbyist back in the 2000s. Messed up real bad. I can't remember his name. Anyway, lobbying is a legitimate activity. It gets a bad rap because corporations are the ones that take the biggest advantage of it. But I always tell people, hell, if you want a basketball court in your neighborhood, you can lobby on behalf of you. They've made it a 4-letter word. They've made advocacy a 4-letter word, but that is totally different from what these cats are accused of doing.
Yeah. Or big time
robbery. Yeah.
I mean, big time. That just came to my mind. Also, what came to my mind, another advocate, if you will, that schemed or has schemed many out of millions of dollars. I'll say that part. Randi Weingarten. Let's have that clip. I think it's clip number 4. And I'm going to tell you how this ties in, at least in my thinking. Clip number 4. Please.
You are the community to this president's chaos. And together we build a future of opportunity and justice for all. Hope over fear, aspiration over anger, the promise of America for each and every American. That is what we are fighting for today.
Is it what we're really fighting for? I mean, is that what she's fighting for? Randi Weingarten, of course, she was the head of one of the teachers unions, one of the biggest teachers unions, a lobbying group, if you will, a political party, if there ever was one, not so much a major party, but certainly major on the American education system. I think they've ripped off a lot of us too. But Nicole, how can or should Congress be a little bit more involved? How can we rein it in better? How can we rein in the unions? Like Randi Weingarten is now she's left that role apparently. But how can we rein it in? They scheme and scam with American taxpayer dollars so much. How can we rein it in?
Listen, one of the things I think that we can do to rein it in is we've got to get our elected officials out of this constant election cycle. Like their thoughts are getting reelected, raising enough money to keep, quote unquote, their seat, not necessarily focused on solving any problems. I mean, take a look at how often they kick the can down the road when it comes to budget, raising the debt ceiling. I mean, anything that they can postpone, please believe Congress has figured out a way to postpone it. So it's left this void of leadership. And when there's a void of leadership with a pot of gold sitting in it, there are going to be people who exploit that and take full advantage. Now, a lot of these people have already secured their great-great-grandchildren's future financially with money hidden, away very well. And if a couple people go to jail, they say, oh, okay, well, slap our wrist, we did the wrong thing. I think in that regard is where Congress can do more. When Congress finally does get them in front of them, not to let them off with a slap on the wrist. Let there be charges, report them to the DOJ. Let Pam Bondi do her job to bring them to bear. There's much more that they can do. But right now, most of Congress is considering getting reelected. The midterms are upon us. So their eyes aren't on the prize. Their eyes are trying to keep their seats. Now, with all of that said, I have to say about, Jumpy Randi there, she stepped away from what she was doing before, but she's not gone yet. You're going to see her in a much bigger way that is just absolutely frightening. But hopefully somebody else will handle her. I think we might get rid of her this time. I think we might.
Yana, again, you're going to be our Russian connection tonight, right? How is corruption handled, or how has it been handled in the I'm sorry, I'm going to say the KGB, in the former Soviet Union?
Don't blow Yana's cover.
Well, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts about what we were just talking about. So, first of all, all these nonprofit organizations, that is socialism. So to have less of this type of corruption that we saw, like you've mentioned with USAID, with Department of Education, we have to have less government, less of these nonprofit organizations that are all money laundering establishments. It's very easy to transfer money from one organization to another and then write down that this person or this organization has done some type of service or worked on some kind of project, and then this money is being paid for that project. That's how people make money working for these nonprofit organizations. And the same thing was, if you have a socialist country like the Soviet Union was, that's what was going on. The people who were in charge, they're the ones getting wealthier and wealthier. And the people who are supposed to be getting the benefits of the socialist program, they're just, given the crumbs. So how to deal with it is to have less of these of government.
I'm all for less government, but before we close out, another little piece to this scam pie, if you will, locally, even more locally, right down to the local level. We can't let it go. Can't forget the Right Rev Pastor Jamal Bryant. Producers, please play clip 11.
Sir? Yes. I understand the boycott against Target, against DEI. Yes. But why is the Rainbow Push Coalition supporting illegal aliens if illegal aliens disproportionately affect the black community jobs? Say that one more time. Why is the Rainbow Push Coalition supporting illegal aliens when illegal aliens disproportionately negatively affect the black community? Yeah, that's not true. It is true. They take jobs, right? But they take your jobs. Question. Legal.
Let me offer. Nothing? Thank you so much for coming out today.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
This is the Rainbow Push Annual Conference.
I mean, if you want to support black jobs, you don't support illegal aliens coming in and undercutting black jobs. It doesn't make sense, though, right? I mean, we got
playing fields.
I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
So, the comedian, Christian comedian. Excuse me. Move on with Darius Brooks and uplifted by Jacayla.
No answer to the question, but that anybody involved with this,
free admission. So
I'll answer the question for you because it doesn't matter about black jobs. This is about raising money for their coalition. They don't actually do things to support the black community because if they did, they'd be working to stop black on black violence. But what they want to do is continue DEI, continue making excuses, continue victim mentality instead of setting people free. That's what that is. To the point where they're praying to the Holy Spirit for abortion, for homosexuality, and for illegal aliens. You talk about deception. The devil is the deceiver, and he has deceived this group of people. Sadly, pray for them in Jesus' name.
Look,
that's what Jamal Bryant said. Say that again, please. It's unreal. It's unreal. You cannot make this up. So we have Pastor Jamal Bryant standing, it looks like in front of a Target. Now he's aligned, or he has been aligned with the infamous or famous Rainbow Push Coalition that's been around since about the early 70s, I think 1971, of course, founded by the other right Rev, Jesse Jackson. All these people, they really want to be Dr. Martin Luther King again. That's what they want to be in some way, shape, or form. But they're out there now boycotting, lobbying, quote unquote, scheming people and claiming, that they're working for the Push Coalition. And now they're getting all this. Pastor Jamal Bryant should sit down. He should sit down or be sat down by his congregation until they get a real pastor who can preach the gospel to these people, not out here doing whatever it is he's doing, which really is not benefiting anyone, in my never be humble opinion, except for Jamal Bryant. Before I go to you all, we do have another super chat. We have Jessica. Thank you, Jessica, for joining us tonight. Jessica with her $10 super chat says, and as usual, y'all are on. Thank you, Jessica, for your support tonight, and all of you out there in chat land. Again, Jessica with another $10 super chat. She says, ding, 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 we have a winner. Yana's explanation that non-profit organizations and socialism is on point. Yes, exactly. We need to have less government, like Yana said. But before I go to you, Nicole, again, Pastor Bryant out there, what is he protesting? What is he protesting? The guy in the comments that was given the commentary said it's DEI, but is that all it is, or what else is in there? I'm sorry, Nicole, before you answer, we have Kung Fu CJ. He just popped in there again with his $5 chat. He says, you notice JJ has not been on TV since 2015. Why is that? Go ahead, Nicole.
It's a really interesting thing when you look at the images, and the question that the commentator brought up is like, so why are you for illegal immigration knowing that it costs Black people jobs? Now here's Jamal Bryant picketing a Target with Black people's jobs at stake, and they're holding signs that say jobs now. The whole thing just seems so kind of haphazard, thrown together. They don't even have the same messaging. And Jamal Bryant is standing there with a jacket on with Malcolm X's picture on it. Malcolm X's whole thing was, as a people, we need to work and do better for ourselves. And here you are picketing 40,000 people who work at Target that happen to be Black. Then there are Black people holding signs that say jobs now. And then you're telling them, oh, no, we're not afraid of the illegal immigrants coming to steal our jobs. That's not a Black thing. Please don't ask the question, who wants free tickets to a comedy show? Well, we're at the comedy show. You guys are as funny as going to get anytime that day. This is ridiculous. And again, you're right, Shelley. This is who wants to have the biggest grift. Who's going to be the next Jesse Jackson? Who's going to be the next Al Sharpton? Since he's only half the owl he used to be, right? Yeah. Who's going to be the next guy to get the big check from the Black people who are going to follow him like sheep because he's going to invoke the name of God? And he's right. It is demonic, and we need to pray for them.
Yeah. Tyrone, I went to the Rainbow Push Coalition site, and they have a whole list of corporate sponsors, right? I mean, household names on that page. What are these corporate sponsors doing? What do they want? I mean, why would they align with this organization knowing Jesse Jackson's history, his shakedown history, not his, I'm not talking about his personal life, no less, but knowing his shakedown history. Now we have Jamal Bryant and Nicole mentioned the Al Sharptons of the world. These people, again, in my opinion, they are trying to become the modern version of Dr. King, Dr. Martin Luther King, but they're little, to me, they are more shady than Dr. King was. But why would these corporate sponsors align with people like Jamal Bryant?
Because they just want to be left alone. This is the grift. Okay. You pay Al Sharpton's organization a certain amount of money regularly, and he won't say bad things. That's simply it. Okay. This is the same type of thing that Jamal Bryant is attempting to set up with Target. That's why they've got this Target boycott going on. That's why you see those corporate names up there, because that's basically like his scalps, his trophies. He's letting you know, if I come knocking on your door, I've already got AT&T, I've already got Comcast and Procter and Gamble, so on and so forth. You might as well do business with me as well. Now, it also plays into the fact that we as Black people are the most politically or the least politically astute voting bloc in America today, because we allow symbols like Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, and now this clown down in Atlanta, the next fake preacher. We allow these symbols to substitute actual improvement in the Black community. So there's an inverse relationship between the net worth of Jamal Bryant, Jesse Jackson, and their ilk, and test scores in the Baltimore City school system. Okay. Property values in the inner city. All right. Crime, all right, is going up right along with the net worths of these people, because it's all about symbolism in the Black community. It's not about real change. And these people have figured out how to way to monetize that. And they've become quite wealthy doing it.
Yana, do you think this has anything to do with communism, Marxism? And I'm asking because I know, you work with a lot of young people, right? In your estimation, do you see the young people, are they gravitating to the likes of Jamal Bryant, or maybe even religion in general? Because I think there's so many perverted or perversions of religion, real good religion. And I think it's going to affect our young people, maybe to a degree. I mean, just tell me about, again, from is it communism? Is it Marxism? Is it Shelley? Not necessarily putting the dots together. Is it making any sense? I don't understand why the Jamal Bryant types in 2025 are still allowed to proliferate, if you will.
Well, it's definitely Marxism. I mean, it's exactly what it is. And since the civil rights movement, there has been Marxists who have infiltrated communities, particularly Black communities, to exploit historic issues that has been going on in this country, and they have been exploiting these issues ever since. And for them to stay alive, for these organizations, for these Marxists to stay alive, these issues, whatever it is that they're quote unquote fighting, they have to be present. So if they're saying they're fighting poverty, then they would like to see poverty to stay. Because if there is no poverty, they don't have a job. They don't have, funding. If there's, some sort of brutality, and they need to constantly hype up these issues, in terms of racial strife or police brutality, and it needs to be kept alive in order for them to get the funding for their coalitions. So it's Marxism, and we have said on this show that there's a book that explains how this works, and it's Color, Communism, and Common Sense by Manning Johnson. So if anyone would like to read, it explains how Marxists have infiltrated the Black community since probably the 50s. And so I don't remember what your other question was.
No, I guess
about young
not.
people.
Yeah.
Yes, and young people do gravitate to these slogans, unfortunately, because young people are not the most, I mean, they're very emotional and they're not the most
impressionable.
logical. So yes, they're gravitating towards slogans. They want to see a world to be better. So, they don't want to hear logical explanations why economics works a certain way. So of course they will play on people's emotions, these types of people.
Right. I have a theory, and you all please chime in, as necessary. This is my question was again, or is, why does it seem like it's Black people that are falling prey, if you will, to a lot of these imposter pastors? And yes, of course, in quote unquote the Black church. I'm getting sick of using that term as well, but I'll use it for these purposes. The Black church. We see a lot of Black people who are in church, whatever, every Sunday, a few Sundays out of the month, and these are some of the same people who will vote their communities off of existence, out of existence. They will have lesser income while the pastors and the pimps are literally pimping them. It just seems like it hovers over the Black community, and it's been like that for a long time. When do more of us wake up and say, enough, I'm not giving my money to the Jamal Bryant types or whatever other church might fit that criteria? But I don't know. I know Marx himself, he talks about this hold that religion has on people, religion being the opiates of the masses, I think it is. But so how do we break that? I mean, there is good religion and then there's not good religion, but I don't know. I don't have an answer. I'm asking questions, but I think one thing that comes to mind is, KJ would probably say this, is the breakdown of the family, right? Many Black households don't have a strong male or father in that household, and they haven't had it for 2 or 3 generations. I think that's a huge factor in that. So can we change it? I mean, it's not going to happen overnight, but can we change it? And how do we even start to change it with the Jamal Bryant and his big platform of the world? Tyrone, you wiping your eyes.
One of the things that sadly is going to happen is, look, the baby boomers have brought a lot of these issues with them, Black baby boomers. And I think somewhere along the line, they lost track of the fact that faith without works is death. You can go to church as often as you want. You can put as much money in the plate on some BS prosperity gospel, thinking that the architect of the universe needs 10% of your wage, okay, in order to then give you a kickback. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. These churches don't preach salvation anymore. They preach material gain, okay, here on the earth. So until we can reject that wholesale, okay, and also again reject symbolism. This is very important. Reject symbolism. Also reject materialism to a large extent. I like nice things, but I think this tie came from Kohl's, and this is a nice tie, if I do say so myself. So
Jessica says JT Thompson, JT Thompson in our super chat, one of our freedom members, he says, one thing that might help is to stop confusing schooling with education.
That's
absolutely, absolutely. They're not the same thing. Nicole, any final thoughts on this? I mean, how can we break that cycle? I mean, we're on the conservative side, the right, if you will. How can we break that cycle? Real quick, Nicole, over I think last week, Project 21, they were talking about mostly to fathers and for Father's Day, but the minister that was on the call was basically talking about how we need to reach people where they are, one at a time, whatever, individual relationships. How can we do that maybe better on the conservative side?
Listen, people have been reached. That's how we got here. TikTok is reaching them, slapping them about their face, but they're getting slapped with the wrong information. When we talk about families are the gold standard, whether they're Black, Chinese, white, it doesn't make a difference. They're the cornerstone of our entire nation. But when we have a group of people who are telling people that family's not important and you don't need a man to have a baby, you can go right down to the corner and buy yourself whatever kind of child you're looking for. And then you don't need a man to intervene in that baby's life. What we end up with is Jamal Bryant, someone who's overly emotional, looking to pad his own income. You can sit in that man's church. It's not going to make you a Christian, just like sitting in the garage is not going to make you a car. This is not how things work. The way we reach people is not by telling them the wrong things, by example. By example. This is something we talk about all the time in my family. You have to lead by example. It's not me saying that, Glorilla winning a gospel prize was a big deal. I don't listen to her music. It makes me no difference. But people in the gospel community took that as an affront, a slap in the face. And I'm thinking, but wait, you have the same access to music that they do, that she does, that her team does. You're not using it to your advantage. So I say to conservative people who believe in traditional families, we're not using our tools to our advantage. For that pastor to say, well, we need to reach out to people. I haven't seen him on TikTok, ain't seen him on IG, haven't seen him on a podcast. Sell that crap somewhere else, fam. Until you get out here on the front line like the rest of us, it's a moot point.
Yana, what can we do? What do you think?
In terms of religion,
or even just reaching people?
Well, when you asked about religion and that whole situation, there's religion and there's spiritualism. And what a lot of these people are involved in is just purely spiritualism. Yes, there has to be spirit within religion, but if you just remove, basically they remove all the canons, all the, laws, religious doctrines, and all you have is just pure emotionalism. That is what a lot of the churches are, and it has been going on in America. It's just something is now growing. I feel like it grew more and more. So just like Tyrone said, people are too involved with their material gain, and religion has to be, first of all, is a study of what you're practicing. So in this case, the Bible, they need to be really studying it and following it, first of all. And then it should be focused on bettering your soul, first of all, and not getting involved in some kind of political movements that may or may not really align with your religious beliefs. So it has to be real. I mean, it needs to be, a brain needs to be involved too when you're practicing religion, not just pure emotion.
Exactly. Again, we probably can all attest to one way or another. We've had good religion, but we kind of came out of, many of us on here, if not all of us, we were political parties, other names before we came on the right. And so you have to be open, I guess, is what I want to say. You have to be open to, number one, hearing truth, to accepting what truth is. There's an objective standard. And then, you can come out of the types of Jamal Bryant's. I cannot stand, it causes me a visceral reaction when I see people being taken advantage of, particularly by people who are so-called leaders or whatever their title may be that puts them in charge of a group of people for whatever reason. I can't stand to see people taken advantage of. And I also cannot stand people who seem to be willing to just feed off of anything. anything just to say they belong, or just to say that, oh, but that person's in charge, I got to do what they say. I don't like that. Like Yana said, we have a brain, we have a heart, we have a soul. We need to be able to engage and have some discernment in that. Having said that, reaching people, conservatives, if you will, on the right, whomever you are, I think one of the things, at least that I've seen work, is reaching people right where they are. One-on-one, is the best, because you have their attention. They have your attention. And I know it's been said before that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Take it, use it, whatever. I think that is largely true, particularly on a one-to-one relationship. We have to reach people in our community, particularly the Black community. That's what I'm talking to for the most part. We do have to reach people there. We have to reach them to let them know there is a way out of whatever this is that they're in order to bring them over to our side, to kind of guide them, mentor them, whatever. If we don't, we're going to keep getting more Jamal Bryant types. We're going to keep getting more of our babies without fathers, without intact homes. We're going to keep getting more of our babies sucked down the sink, right? We just are. All of these things. Crime is going to proliferate even more. We do have to step in. We're at a place, I know I might be sounding preachy. I'm not trying to be. But I think we on this panel, and I'm just saying we collectively, we're at a place where, you know how I say, we've been there, done that. Now we have something to impart. Right? Mm-hmm. We have something to impart. We have something to share that we can mentor and hopefully guide other people to a better place, or at least, help them along the way in some kind of way. We have a few super chatters here. Let's see. We have Jessica Price for a $10 super chat. Thank you, Jessica. She says, the problem is self-righteousness, selfishness, laziness, lack of parenting, self-entitlement, over-dependence on the system, toxic generational ideologies, no soul searching towards self-discovery. Okay, Jessica, you said a lot, but it sounds like you are hitting the nail out the park. Jessica Zane, another Jessica. Okay, we got two. A $20 super chat. She says, in light of our recent Father's Day, us single moms must value the impact and importance of the fathers. Once us single moms humble ourselves, then true accountability can happen. That's true, Jessica. And I'm just going to add, fathers too. I mean, mothers don't make babies by themselves, and neither do fathers. So parents need to be more responsible and accountable for taking care of their children. If you can't take care of them, then you shouldn't have them. And I'm not talking about sucking them down the sink. Nevertheless, we want you to go to our site to see all our platforms. We're on YouTube. We are closing up tonight. We're on YouTube, and we have our other sister stations. We have Just the Guys podcast, which is on Saturdays at 6:30 Eastern time. Of course, we have Poppin' Politics, which you're watching tonight. Again, KJ is off, but she will be back this week. Poppin' Politics, we're here on Mondays, Wednesdays, and most Fridays, sometimes Saturdays. KJ, Christian Conservative, she's on Thursday evenings at 9 and Sunday evenings. And we have on Tuesdays the All American Talk Show. Go to each one of these sites right now, like, subscribe, and share the link. You want to hit the notifications because you don't want to miss any notifications. We're on every day, pretty much every day of the week. You can find one of our sister channels or brother channels on the YouTube airwaves. And I do want to send a shout out and say thank you for all of your support. Yes, Yana was here tonight. Good to see you back, Yana. The audience loved you. They were asking about you. Thank you for Nicole and Tyrone for supporting me here tonight. I am Shelly E, and we are signing off tonight. And don't forget, we'll be back Monday. I'm sorry, today is Monday, right?
Yeah, today
we'll be back Wednesday. We'll be back Wednesday. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.